de Carvalho. He's in London and he's a director at the King's Brazil Institute. It's good to speak to you on this news hour. So Bolsonaro is the man that we are waiting to hear from. He is expected, I believe, to actually speak today. What do you think he's going to say, and why do you think it's taken so long for him to come out and publicly say something about losing this election?
First of all, thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure to talking to you. Well, this has been a big surprise for all Brazilians and everyone following the presidential elections in Brazil, the silence of the president. We are going for 72 hours after the elections, and we haven't heard any word from him, neither accepting the results of the election or even talking to the voters that vote for him, indeed. It's been expected that today he will come and say something. Most of what's been expected is acknowledgement of the defeat, and some people close to the palace of the president also mentioned that he may reinforce that he will return to run again for the presidency, but no one is expecting that he will inflame more and support those who are protesting in the streets and closing the highways, especially to continue to do that. That's what is being expected of his speech now.
Yeah, we're actually looking at some of those live pictures from Sao Paulo, of course, one of the biggest cities in Brazil, and fears that these continued protests are going to affect food supply in the country. But the loss that Bolsonaro is suffering, he lost by a very small margin. It was only 2 million votes, and it really speaks about the division and polarization in Brazil society. It's something that we've discussed a lot on this channel. But with Lula coming into power at the beginning of next year, do you think that's going to be the main issue that he's going to be looking at, given that Brazil is also going through an economic crisis and so many people are hungry there?
Yeah, there will be a very challenging government for President Lula da Silva. There is the question of hunger. And in his first speech after the election, Lula reinforced that will be the top of his agenda to again make Brazil or remove Brazil from the map of hunger. This is a big challenge, considering the economic situation that the country is living, the growing is not as expected, economically speaking, and the global economic crisis as well. And the other point is that one that you mentioned, how to pacify a country that is quite divided now between two very different agendas. It's important to remember that yes, Bolsonaro lost, but all the supporters of Bolsonaro, that's a big part of the Brazilian population, will continue following or at least pursuing the agendas that Bolsonaro represented as well. Lula will have in front of him the need of unifying a country and at least trying to understand the demands of this part of the population and make them understand that Lula is governing for all Brazilians and not only for those who vote for him.
How does Lula's presidency, if at all, change Brazil's role and interaction in Latin America, or even change them at all, given that Brazil is the biggest economy and the most populous country in the region?
Bolsonaro's government, in terms of international relations, were marked by a sort of isolation of Brazil, not so much playing the cards that Brazil, or the role that Brazil had historically in Latin America, in the global south, and even in broader partnerships like BRICS. What's expected from Lula is to regain this global south leadership, to re-engage with Latin America, and particularly with Mercosur, and also try to rebuild the ties with European powers. During Bolsonaro's governments, there was quite a lot of friction with some European powers, and especially around the question of the environment protection in the Amazonian region. So it's expected that the Lula approach will be more friendly towards these topics. Again, that will be not easy considering the geopolitics, the global geopolitics today. Lula is not coming to the world that was the same world that he had when he was elected president for the first time. So it will demand from Brazil a balance on how to position itself globally, not only in the region in Latin America, but as I said, in the global geopolitics. And one of the key points will be exactly the Russian-Ukrainian crisis and war.
It's going to be a very interesting change in leadership there. Vinicius Mariano de Carvalho, live to us there from London. Thank you for your take. And